One of us is a spender. One of us is a hoarder.
Yes. I wouldn't say hoarder.
Really?
Collector.
Okay. Collector. One of us is a spender. One of us is a collector.
And I like to get maximum value out of my purchases.
Exactly.
So I want to keep them as long as possible.
That's no. Welcome to Married to the Startup. I'm Alicia Mackenzie, a wellness entrepreneur and digital creator. Alongside me is my amazing husband, George, the CEO who's always ready for a new challenge. We've been navigating marriage and running startups for over a decade, and we're here to share the real, unfiltered journey with you. Join us for insights and candid conversations about integrating love, family, and entrepreneurship. This is Married to the Startup, where every day is a new adventure. Welcome to episode 8?
Yes.
Of Married to the Startup. Is this episode 8?
It is.
Are you sure?
I think I can count to 8.
All right. I am your host, Alicia Mackenzie.
And I'm the other person here, George Mackenzie.
Good job, babe. Proud of you.
That was very high energy.
It was. It was. All right. Today we've got some good topics on the list. We're going to start with your favorite topic, money.
Yes.
We like money.
I do. That's my favorite.
And budgeting for business.
Yay.
And budgeting for home. And financial management, who does what, and budget breakdown, and like all these little financial tips. But can we start with what we did with the kids this past weekend or a couple weekends ago? I think it was really fun.
Sure.
And the kids loved it. So I think we've mentioned Finance Fridays on here before, where we would force the kids to learn about.
I wouldn't say force.
I think it was forced.
They enjoyed it.
They didn't.
Yes.
I mean, they learned stuff.
They still sing those songs.
Against their will. They learned stuff against their will, but we did Finance Fridays with them for a little while. And then this weekend, we took it a step further. We opened up brokerage accounts for each one of the kids. So all 5 of the children have their little brokerage account, and it's very cute. And they got to pick their stocks, and they got to buy them, and they got to choose what percentage of stocks they wanted. And yeah, so now we're going to watch it either shrink or grow.
Yeah, I think it's a good exercise for them. One, they really don't understand, evaluating companies or price per earning, PE ratios or anything like that. It was just, we instructed them of, what are the companies that and are things that you're interested in or things that you purchased today or things that, you find add value to your life. And, the list of things they came up with are quite eccentric.
It was so cute.
You can tell by the ages, like, the olders were into Apple and Disney and Amazon, even though Maverick, Walmart, Amazon.
So Maverick's stock list, I have it right in front of me. And he went behind the counter and he wrote everything down on this little piece of paper. And he wanted to buy something with dogs because he loves animals. So we ended up buying Chewy, which I had no idea that Chewy was publicly traded. That was news to me. But he bought Chewy, Netflix, Walmart, Amazon, Nike, and Target. And these are all stocks that these are all companies he knows. He uses them on a daily basis. And that's why he chose to buy them. And I mean, He's 6, so we can't really expect, him to do a deep dive into all of these companies, but he chose based on the knowledge base that he had.
Yeah. And I think it reinforces some of those, invest is best theories that we did on the Finance Friday and showing that you have to put money to work. So allowing them to create their own stock portfolios, and we're tracking it, not on a daily basis because I say like that's,
we don't want to
too much anxiety.
Yeah,
and the market is a long-term investment strategy is what we're trying to teach them. So we're going to evaluate, look at the stocks in the beginning. We'll look at it monthly and then eventually go to quarterly, and then we'll make changes on a quarterly basis, so not on a day-to-day or month-to-month basis. But it'll be interesting to see if they can start to grasp how you invested money in a stock, that the company and or stock performs better, and then you have now increased the value of those shares. Hence, you've made profit on your investment and ultimately take that profit and reinvest it in other things.
And then Maddox's stocks were all sports-based.
Yes.
Right? So he bought stock in, what's the team?
The Atlanta Braves.
There's only one. How many baseball teams?
We tried to, not be stock dominant in one facet of the market. So he has one.
No, but I mean, how many baseball teams
I don't know how many are publicly traded.
I think there was only 1 or 2.
Yeah, the Atlanta Braves are one. So he bought some of that stock and then
he bought stock in Callaway.
Yes.
Like the Top Golf.
Yeah.
Top Golf brand. What's Chef?
I don't remember.
CHEF?
Yeah, I don't know. Probably should have researched it.
I mean, no, I'm curious. Like he bought it for a reason. Because it has to be something to do with pizza.
Probably.
I think it was a pizza stock, and then he bought FedEx.
FedEx. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he had a pretty good stock
FedEx
list.
comes to our door just as much as Amazon. I think that's what drove it.
Yeah. And then baby Maya, we just picked some for her. Like we bought a bunch of AI stocks that we found.
Yeah. So she'll probably outperform the others. Probably.
And then I think Michaela and Ava, their stocks were definitely more things that they use on a daily basis. So Sephora is owned by some company. So Michaela bought stock in that. And then.
Yeah. And I think it's, Disney, Amazon, those were the big ones for them. And because because the price per share was so high for those, we didn't do stock slices or anything. We just, if your stock like Google or something was $600 a share, then you could get one.
Yeah. So
and that was your investment.
Who did you open up their brokerage accounts with?
It's with Charles Schwab, but it's under our account.
Okay. Yeah. But if you're interested in doing something similar to this, it's easy to take $100 and just go open a brokerage account and sit there with your kid and pick out some stocks. Ask them what they like. What companies do you know? Why do you like it?
I think Robinhood is another, but they're easier because you can do the stock slice thing. I think Charles Schwab offers that as well. So you could be able to buy slices of stock. So if you said, we're going to invest $10 or $100 and I want to own as part of the portfolio Google, which is more than $100 a share, you could buy a slice of it, which means you would buy like 1/100th of it or 1/6 of it or whatever of a share with however much money you were to allocate. So you can still participate and still, ride the ups and downs. And I think it teaches the kids about investing. And then you have your 401k, you're basically doing that. And if you're doing, a broad-based, investment like an S&P 500, you're looking at 500 stocks up and down in aggregate.
But I think this is a good way to introduce them into the world of investing.
Yeah, it takes the lessons that we did on Finance Friday about investing and how, you put it in the market and it grows and making it, a tangible thing that they've witnessed. They've put their own money in, but there's risk there too. So I'm sure they'll see it on, the Disney investment, not so great right now. So I'm sure we'll see that shake out on a quarterly basis. It's
also making sure that you drive home that this is definitely a long-term investment. Do not look at your stocks every day. It will drive you mad.
Yes.
Ask me how I know.
It's not a day trading strategy.
Yeah, Mr. McKenzie.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on. Let's talk a little bit about budgeting for the business.
Yeah, that's a question I get asked frequently, and one in which I think it's easy to overlook it when you're first starting your business. I know we talked about in previous episodes around creating a company and having a focus and understanding what your exit strategy is or what the outcome of the goal of the company is and a long-term strategy and setting 5 and 3-year strategies. But the unsung hero in all that is creating a budget. So when you're starting, especially when you're bootstrapped, being able to look 18 to 24 months out, understanding what your cost structure is, what drives cost in the business, and then, investments, and then being able to track if you are to invest additional capital in the business, what is that going towards and how do I, be able to track my return on that investment? And I think even in larger companies with people that have participated in startups before and have been part of companies, if you're not plugged into the finance world, creating that 18-month budget and tracking it with a waterfall of revenue projections and then the cost to go with that revenue and creating a budget, which is, hey, January 1, this is the budget for the year. This is how much we expect to generate in revenue. This is how much we expect to have in profitability. This is how much we expect to spend in all these indirect and G&A categories. And having that budget set and say, snap a chalk line, that's the budget. That's where we're going to grade success against. But it is forward-looking. It is filled with hypotheses about revenue that will come in, cost that will go out. And then on a monthly basis, being able to forecast against budget. So we executed in January. We have January's data. And now we say, okay, what does the forecast look like and how off budget are we? And then every month you reforecast. So every month you get better and better at forecasting the rest of the year. And I think oftentimes people don't put enough effort in the budget and the budget's so out of whack that it doesn't translate into reality when you start to rubber meets the road. What do actuals look like? What does my forecast look like? And then the alternate is people will look at budget and say, oh, but I budgeted X amount for, let's say you have a startup. I budgeted X amount for
marketing.
Yes. And it's $100,000 for marketing.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got $100,000 to spend in the month or the year for marketing. So then I'm going to do $8,000 a month for the year. So in January, February, I spend $8,000. And when I reforecast out, I don't have the revenue that I thought I was going to have.
Yeah.
I don't see it coming in. So my budget needs to shrink, and, commiserate with the revenue that I've lost. And then sometimes that's a hard concept for folks because, even if they've been in big companies, like, hey, but my budget was $100,000 for marketing.
Yeah, but it's not producing what you thought it would, so it needs to shrink.
Right.
Or you need to get better at marketing.
Yeah. So the budget is just the budget. It's that, hey, we have to start somewhere.
Yeah.
We snap a chalk line and that's what we think it's going to be. But month over month, it changes. So
nothing's written in stone.
Yeah. As you reforecast, maybe if you miss your numbers, the marketing budget in July, August, September goes from $8,000 a month to $4,000 a month because the revenue didn't shake out. So being a financial person or having done it a lot, it seems common sense to me, but it's amazing how many conversations I've had to have with folks about that particular item. Where
that your budget isn't set in
what are you talking about? My budget said I had X amount.
Yeah, that amount can change.
Yeah.
It definitely can. Okay.
But, setting that budget at the beginning of the year, and especially if you're a startup, looking 18 to 24 months out, because you have to understand your cash flow. Cash is king. And if you're burning higher than expected, right, you got to be able to make cuts and you got to be able to forecast how much money I need to survive until X or Y event
But
happens.
in reality, usually within startups, the first 6 months to a year, you're going to run hot.
Yeah. But it should be a plan, not just how much are you spending? I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, is this, did you plan for these expenses? Are they not planned expenses? Is it in line with what you thought for the next 6 months?
Well, and I think most of the time it's not planned expenses because let's be honest, when you start your first company, you really don't know what the fuck you're doing.
Yeah. But
right?
You just try to bucket dollars, right?
Yeah.
I expect, at least to the raw, I expect this much revenue.
Yes.
I expect this much loss.
Yes.
And if your loss is higher than you think, then it's okay. Where is the delta in the revenue or money, the capital going to come from to make it through 18 months or 24 months? And then,
which is why most businesses fail within the first year.
Yeah. And how do I explain that to the investors?
Definitely. All right. So how do you think this compares to managing a household budget?
Yeah. I mean, for me, I think it's a very similar process.
Yeah.
And what we had talked about, we set 3 to 5 year goals for our family.
Yeah, definitely.
And then we set an annual goal. I would say I'd call it a budget, but we use the term goals. So it's like, hey, I want to add X% to my net worth this year.
The limit does not exist.
I want to increase my net worth by this much. Or I know there's a lot of events happening in my life this year. And we know that this is not going to be a big growth year for our net worth. And then, okay, maybe it's a neutral year or we're going to lose something, but understanding what that is going into the year versus just going in the year and seeing what happens.
So, and in our relationship, one of us does not perform well, or one of us doesn't do well mentally when we're spending money. And one of us is more like, okay, YOLO, let's go.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's why we work well together because, like I said, that's how we got a beach house. Like there are certain things that we both collectively want, but he can't pull the trigger because it's like a mental roadblock. Like, holy shit, this is so much money. I can't do it. And I'm like, okay, hold my beer.
Yeah. Well, it's not even the dollar figure. Like I have a personal challenge with spending money in general. So it could be $100 item or $100,000 item.
Which I think
I have the same stress about it.
When you're in a relationship, though, I think you can't having two spenders in one relationship. Like I feel like that's recipe for disaster.
Probably.
Right? Like one of us is a spender, one of us is a hoarder.
Yes. I wouldn't say hoarder.
Really?
Collector.
Okay, collector. One of us is a spender. One of us is a collector.
And I like to get maximum value out of my purchases.
Exactly.
So I want to keep them as long as possible. Because the value is in time.
That's not how this works. Holding on to DVDs that we didn't even own a DVD player,
that
babe.
Garth Brooks DVD was going to be worth something one day. I
promise you it's not. I actually threw it away a year and a half ago. Like we've had this Garth Brooks multi-box set from when we first got together, and he's been carrying it from house to house because he can't throw it away.
And I don't think I've ever listened to one of them.
Never. It was still in the plastic.
Yeah.
It was still in the plastic. So I took it upon myself to remove it from our household. I won't tell you how I did it.
A window into the world.
Yeah. So you do most of the finances when it's a big purchase or when it's something that we both need to put our heads together to figure out, then yeah, we'll do it. But you keep me in check.
Yeah, and I think the budgeting,
I keep you in check.
Yeah, the budgeting, to tie it back to the budgeting for the business versus personal. It's a similar budget style for me. I don't do as detailed spreadsheets. I used to be very detailed with spreadsheets, and I would bar chart out monthly spend over the last 5 years.
We should remove all the numbers and just like
but I stopped all that because I just couldn't keep up with that and the businesses and everything all at once. But it's more of that. Hey, are we going to add or subtract from the net worth this year? And what are the big spends? And then understanding that, hey, we have this much for school tuitions with kids going to college, saving for that. And we have this much for mortgage, this much for, credit card bills or whatever. And then saying, okay, that's what we think it's going to be for the year. And then every quarter looking, or month to quarter looking, okay, are we on par, over, or under? So let's say, as in this year, I'm not really earning a salary anywhere. So we're living off of, let's say, investments or other things that could be static, or I guess not static, more dynamic in how they perform. So much like a business. So if there was a major downturn or unexpected losses in the income I was generating from that, then we would adjust spending habits.
Yeah.
But we live fairly frugally. I do. I live very frugally. But
yes, we live very frugally.
I try.
I'm sure anyone looking in would say that we live frugally.
Yeah, but it's definitely, there's a budgeting process. There is a financial review that happens. And I know that, I'm sure every company does it on a monthly basis and quarterly basis and annual basis, but I'm not sure most families do that. Well, but we do it on an annual basis. So we look at last year, this is what we said we were going to do, net worth wise, up, down. This is how we actually performed. This coming year, this is what we think. We think we're going to go on this many vacations. We think the average vacation cost is X. Which
is really strange because we did not plan for you to be
unemployed this year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We didn't plan for you to be without a job. Correction. You didn't plan.
I didn't plan.
I honestly, I'm truly believe in the power of manifestation and subconscious and unconscious thought. And at the end of last year, I'm like, okay, babe, you're miserable. Why are we doing this? Just quit. Just quit. And he's like, no, I'm going to tough it out. We're going to do this for X amount of months. I've got it. I'm fine. And lo and behold, I think I said it for the last quarter. I'm like, you really just need to quit. Like, this job is fucking dumb. Like, I'm not going to go into it, but I'm like, you're miserable. Why are we doing this? You don't need to work. So just quit. And then January 8th.
Yes.
So I believe that you're welcome. I manifested that.
Nice. Well, I think that's a good segue into the next topic.
Yeah. This all ties back to a story when my mom and I there was a really bumpy, rough patch in our life where my dad, he suffered from PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder from the war, from Vietnam, and he disappeared. So her and I were left to kind of figure things out on our own. He racked up a ton of credit card debt. We were definitely financially unstable. And one of our cars had just gotten repossessed. And we were sitting on the porch. And I think I was 14 or 15 at the time. And I was totally rebellious. I was smoking on the porch and my mom walks up and she has the mail in her hand and she's like, we are really struggling. And she said, I just opened this envelope and there was a check in there. And from that moment on, she's like, I wasn't always sure where our money was coming from, but I knew it would end up in the right when I needed it. And from that point on, I've always believed in the power of manifestation. She always had a positive mindset. Things were hairy as fuck for a very, very long time during my childhood. And we always got through it. I don't know how. I'm not a big believer in, we don't go to church, but I do believe that we are all connected. That energy is all connected. And I do believe that there is something else pulling the strings, whether that's take the red pill, take the blue pill, Jesus Christ, Buddha, whatever. There's something, and we have always been taken care of. So I think I'm a big believer in manifestation. I'm a big believer in subconscious positive thoughts, unconscious positive thoughts, and how it's all connected. It's kind of like when you are looking for a new car, oh, I'm going to go buy a new car. This is the car I want. And then all of a sudden you start seeing that car on the road everywhere, right? That is your unconscious thought meeting your conscious thought.
Yeah, and I think you had listened to a podcast that was way more in depth about it and the studies and the chemical makeup of the brain and how that happens. But when you take a step back and think about it, I think most of the positive events in my life are things that I have manifested, so to speak, that things that I had thought about or wanted or desired, and then you make reality. And I said this to the boys' Little League baseball team last week, is I did read an article. I think it was University of Florida did a study on tennis players, and it was around mental mindset and not unadulterated optimism, but why are these top 25 tennis players, or the top 5 of the 25, why are they more successful than the other 20? And what the length of the study boiled down, they had a lot of different measurements for things, but it boiled down to really the mindset that the top 5, when they hit a bad shot, the first thing they thought of was, oh, next time that next one's going in. And then when they hit a great shot afterwards, they think, yep, I'm doing that again, next one's going in. And telling my son and the team members that, hey, when you're up to bat, when you swing and miss or you hit a foul ball, right, it's okay to say, oh, that was a great pitch, I missed it. And then the mindset of the next one I'm hitting, I'm going to hit the next one. You strike out, that's okay. Next time I bat, I'm hitting it. Or you make an error in the field. Oh, I threw the ball away. I threw it bad. That's all right. Next time I'm throwing it right in there. Next pitch is going to be right down the middle. And having that mindset, and same with business, like you don't win every contract you bid on. You don't win every customer you go after. And to be frank, you go on a lot more sales calls than you ever sell.
Yeah.
Right. So if you don't have that positive mindset of the next one is going to be it. And you don't need to be, like the perennial optimist where, you're selling ice to Eskimos and you're like, hey, the next sale is going to be huge. No, you got to be, grounded in some reality, but you have to be positive about what you're doing and you have to manifest that positivity.
But it's also, there's a part of the brain that is responsible for all of this. And that's what I heard on the podcast. It was the reticular activating system is what is actually responsible for your subconscious thoughts and meeting your conscious world. So the fact that there is real science behind why these things happen. And one of the examples they used was you learn a new word and then all of a sudden you start hearing that word everywhere. And you're like, oh, but there's a reason for that, right? There's this little part of the brain that kind of creates a filter for what you're going to focus on. And one of my favorite quotes is, whether you think you can or you can't, you're right. Right. And that's something I always tell to my kids. But it's also when they're struggling with something, I'm like, okay, what's the worst that could happen? Right. What's the worst that could happen? And then when they say that, I'm like, okay, and then what? So like, for example, she was like, well, what if I get an F on this test? I'm like, okay, and then what? What's the worst that could happen? Are your parents going to yell at you, or are you going to be in trouble? Like, what's the worst that could happen? No, you just learned what not to do. So I think mindset is something that we teach heavily in our household. You can tell yourself you're going to have a bad day, and you're probably going to have a bad day. Or you can be like, okay, this day kind of sucks right now. Maybe it'll get better later, or tomorrow will be a new day. Right. So it's not saying that like, let's gloss over all the shitty things that happen. It's like, no, bad things are going to happen. And we know that. Like, what's today? Today's May 16th. And this will obviously publish after today. But this month of May, I've broken my foot. Michaela broke her thumb. Ava got 2 flat tires. Maddox sprained his thumb. What else?
It's been an adventurous month.
It has been a very adventurous month. And people are like, oh my God, are you so stressed? I'm like, no, not really. I mean, yeah, bad things happen, and it'd be naive of me to go through life thinking that everything is going to be great every day. I mean, we have 5 kids. There's a lot of room for failure there, right? Like,
yeah, and Michaela swallowed a dime.
No, Maya.
Maya swallowed a dime.
We were in the ER with the baby because she ate a dime.
Yeah.
So it's been a very eventful month, but also I'm very grateful in the healthcare system. I'm grateful in the fact that we have great insurance and people will come change our tire in the middle of the rain, right? Like there's so much good. And I think when you've had a lot of trauma as a child, like I suffered through a lot of trauma as a child with my father and my brother and everything, like it's been bad. So like this stuff, it all seems easy. It seems really easy. I mean, we've had death in the family. We've had multiple deaths in the family. My father struggled with alcoholism. So like it hasn't always been rosy, but all this shit just seems easy. So I really think that mindset
matters for sure. And I think our kids have taken that, and if we want to put a bow around it, but I think the personification of it, and I overheard it as Maddox struck out last week, and he walks back and one of the teammates is like, oh, it's okay, Maddox, you struck out. Next time you'll do it. And he goes, hey, it's life. I mean, it's like, no big deal. It's life. I'll get it next time. And, I don't think anybody in our family, for the most part, outside of me, really stresses too much.
Yeah. Good.
Which is good. Good vibes.
We've done a good job. Good vibes. Which I think moving on to our next topic, individuality for our kids.
Yeah. Okay. What does that mean?
What do you... we have
5, so yeah, it's hard, and we don't want any one of them to feel like they don't have their own independent voice and their own independent time and love and attention from us. It's hard when you have 5 to get lost in a group, and if you're not the dominant voice, let's say right now, let's say Ava is probably a dominant voice because she's getting ready for college. It's recruiting. There's a lot of things going on. She had travel volleyball. All these things take up a lot of time. And, Maya is the baby, so she gets tons and tons of attention. And when she doesn't, she throws things or screams. And it's easy to be the ones in the middle just saying, hey, I'm just going to sit over here on the sidelines, and I want to get my parents' attention, and then, maybe act out negatively or something. So,
which they really don't.
Right. And I think it's because we do a fairly good job of trying to schedule one-on-one time with each kid, where it could just be an hour during the day. It could be a quick trip to do something. For me, I get an hour or 2 with Maddox at baseball practice. I read to the boys at night. I cuddle with Mavi at night. We talk, and you try to find those little windows of time, but then also we do scheduled excursions with each child.
Yeah. We make it a point each year to go on at least one trip with each kid individually. And that could be something like, I think for Ava, we took her to Vegas this year. Mm-hmm. Baby Maya went on a Disney cruise for her birthday. Michaela is doing a trip later this summer with friends to the beach house and me. So I think it's really making it a point to give each child that individual time, because they act differently when they're around each other, and they act differently when they're just alone with you, right? They're maybe a little more quiet when they're with you because they don't have to be loud. So it's really, even if we had 2 kids, like I've always felt that the package deal for children, like, okay, there's the 2 of you, we're just going to take the 2 of you everywhere.
Yeah. And you guys will entertain each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting to hear the conversations when they're alone, because it's unbiased from, their siblings' opinion. They don't really have to say something that they think that, their sibling would agree with or want to participate in. And it's just a random thoughts. Like Maddox's random thoughts are just all over the place. And, Michaela is the same. Like she'll talk and talk and talk. And it's a lot of gossip at first and complaining about her brothers, and then eventually it starts into like what she thinks about a certain subject. And it's interesting to see the world through their eyes and hear what their interpretation of something is.
Honestly, that's why I love driving them around, like them and their friends. It's really cool to just kind of listen to what they talk about. Like the boys, it's cute and innocent stuff right now, right? Like it could be Maddox and let's say 2 of his friends, and like it's usually a lot of farts and not the good stuff. But then you've got the middle girls, and
that never goes away.
No,
the boys will talk about farts until they're
it's really awful.
50, 60,
I didn't understand.
Still happens. Farts are always funny.
They're not. They're really not. But then it's like the 17-year-olds, like they talk for a little bit and then they fall asleep. But for that first little bit, like it's really cool to like listen to their conversations, even though you try to pretend that you're not listening, because then they'll tone it down a little bit. But yeah, so I think it's really just, it's an important thing for us to keep that individual connection with all of them.
Yeah. And I think allowing them to be themselves, not just, oh, I'm one of 5, or I'm the middle child, or I'm Michaela's brother, or I'm, Maddox's sister. It's, you are you as an individual. And it's amazing seeing their personalities and how different they are when they're made from the same DNA and raised pretty much the same, and they come out so different.
Yeah. It's kind of like an evaluation for each of our children yearly.
Yeah, there you go.
Right?
Yeah. It's a budget review.
It is.
We've spent a lot on you. How's this shaking out? Are we getting an ROI here?
For sure.
I don't know.
I don't know. That the odds aren't in our favor. 5 of them, one of them's going to be a bit of a disaster. Yeah. Which one is it? But
they don't have to be expensive trips. I think that's, if people are trying to listen to this and take action on it or do something, it's really, it could be a trip to the grocery store and you just take one.
Or just going to dinner.
Yeah.
Right? Like just going out to eat with one of your kids. I don't know. I love sweet little dates like that. Like I like just taking Michaela to the mall and she's at her like weird, like I'm really not hungry phase. She's like, let's go get coffee. Right? I'm like, oh, okay. But you need real food too.
Yeah.
But it could just be as small as going to dinner with them.
Yeah. And I used to like it with Ava when I would take her to volleyball practice or pick her up from volleyball practice. She had that 10 minutes where it was just her and I. We could talk about mostly volleyball at that time, but translating it into life and keeping your eye on what the end goal is.
That's gone.
Yeah, she's going to be, or the end goal right now is.
Well, no,
I know the time because she drives herself.
Yeah, she drives herself everywhere. It flies by. I feel like we were literally just trekking her back and forth from Madeira, and now.
Yeah, but you still get the call at 6:30 at night. I got a flat tire. Yeah. So it all comes back around.
That poor girl. Yeah, it's been a tough month. May needs to chill out.
Yes.
It's my birth month.
I know.
I should be like celebrating, but my life is ruined by children.
It's not ruined.
I know. I'm just kidding.
It's enhanced.
It's enriched.
Enhanced.
Very enriched life.
Yes. You're definitely rich.
All right. I think that's all for today, folks. Thank you for tuning in.
Yeah.
Make sure to subscribe.
That was a good one.
Go follow us.
Follow us.
Yeah.
Where?
Everywhere. Married to the Startup.
Okay.
.com.
LiftLikeAmother.com.
Wow, Lift Like a Mother. You can get an insight into the craziness. I share some behind the scenes. Thanks for tuning in to Married to the Startup. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, please take a moment to like, rate, and subscribe to our podcast. Your support helps us reach more people and keeps the conversation going. Have questions or topics you'd like us to cover? Drop us a message at www.marriedtothestartup.com. Until next time.
George, out.